Fans of all things steak might occasionally walk into a steakhouse wanting to taste the legendary, luxurious flavors of Wagyu beef. The problem is that when you get right down to it, Wagyu beef is a redundant expression. As the Japan Times points out, the term Wagyu technically just means Japanese beef, a special subset of which is Kobe beef, but the implications of those labels run much deeper. The romanticized concept of Wagyu begins with a cow that's led a totally pampered life. Supposedly, the animal receives daily massages and exclusively consumes Sapporo beer, but as it turns out, the booze and belly rubs are mostly fiction. In fact, restaurants might be lying about the supposedly legendary beef on your plate so shamelessly that it's a minor miracle they haven't burned down from all the pants-on-fire fibbing. There's a good chance that you're getting an entirely different, inferior product. And that's not the only way steakhouses can totally hose customers. In 2012, Forbes called Kobe beef at U.S. restaurants food's biggest scam, noting that prior to 2010, the U.S. could only buy boneless fresh beef from Japan, none of which was Kobe. Steakhouses promising Kobe were selling deception at a premium. Up to that point, there was a blanket ban on importing Japanese beef. Since then, traces of Kobe have trickled into the U.S. market, but in the years that followed, the deception continued. What makes this deception extra insidious is how expensive it is. A 2016 investigation by Inside Edition noted that Kobe beef sold for as much as $55 an ounce back then. Only 400 pounds of it entered the country monthly, but there was a ton of expensive bull going around at steakhouses. For instance, the renowned Old Homestead Steakhouse charged between $175 and $350 for what the Kobe Beef Association identified as bogus Kobe beef. When pressed on the matter, the owner responded,
"You're getting hung up on what the name is."
By contrast, customers might have been getting hung out to dry like aged beef. 3-star Michelin restaurant Le Bernardin in New York City reportedly charged $110 for what it advertised as Kobe beef. But when asked to show the Kobe beef certification, the manager vanished, much like the credibility of many steakhouses. But it's not just the type of beef that steakhouses could be playing games with. It's also the temperature of your slab of cow when it comes to the table. Medium rare beef has an internal temperature of 135 degrees after resting. Chefs and many diners consider that the ideal temperature for flavorful and tender steak, but not everyone hits that target. People make mistakes, and if you overcook a steak, an expensive cut of meat is suddenly wasted. That problem has led to some shady practices. According to the New York Post, some restaurants will undercook their steak on purpose, which has led to some food writers getting medium rare cuts that are almost raw, just so the chefs aren't accused of overcooking the meat. After all, if it's undercooked, they can just toss it back on the grill. If it's overcooked, they have to just toss it. Steakhouses may also use delicious tricks to convince customers that they're eating higher quality meat. For example, some restaurants might improve mediocre beef by covering it in butter, which is nice, but just means all the goodness is coming from the butter and not the meat. They may also label old steak dry-aged. They may use MSG or other tenderizers to hide the original toughness of the meat. Part of the problem is that beef itself is no longer in its prime. A rise in overseas beef consumption, among other factors, contributed to a decline in the amount of USDA prime beef served at steakhouses. Instead, they settled for USDA High Choice, which has less marbling and therefore less flavor. The diminishing quality of steakhouse beef is not a new problem. Even in the mid-1990s, food writers were lamenting the decline of American beef due to lax grading standards. Beef's waning popularity made it expensive to produce top-quality meat, so the USDA began grading it on a curve. Left with few choices besides High Choice, some steakhouses will milk their subprime beef for all it's worth, while taking a prime cut of your wallet. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about restaurants are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.